All right. Thank you. Good afternoon. I will start off with a statement on developments on the Korean Peninsula. The Secretary General welcomes the commitment made by Chairman Kim Jong-un of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea on September 5th to realize denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. The Secretary General commends the continued momentum and efforts by both Koreas to further trust building and reconciliation in line with the Panmunjom Declaration. He looks forward to further progress at the Inter-Korean Summit later this month towards sustainable peace, security, and complete and verifiable denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula in accordance with relevant Security Council resolutions. And I also have a statement on Afghanistan. The Secretary General condemns yesterday's twin attack in Kabul City targeting civilians at a sports center in an area populated by Afghan Shia community. The Secretary General extends his condolences to the families of the victims and wishes a speedy recovery to those injured. Every effort should be made to bring justice to those who organized these attacks against civilians. The Secretary General expresses his solidarity with the government and people of Afghanistan and supports the efforts of the authorities to fight terrorism. We also have a statement from the Emergency Relief Coordinator, Mark Lowcock, who was in Kabul and expressed his shock and horror at the attack. Our mission in Afghanistan also issued a statement condemning the attack from the SRSG, from the Secretary General's Special Representative. Also wanted to flag that you will have seen earlier today the Secretary General tweeted out following the decision by the High Court in India. The Secretary General said he welcomed today's decision by India's Supreme Court to decriminalize sexual relations between lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex people. He quoted the court's Chief Justice, who said that discrimination and prejudice are always, quote, irrational, indefensible, and manifestly arbitrary. The UN in India and UNAIDS also welcomed the landmark ruling. And back here this morning, the Secretary General spoke at the General Assembly's observance of International Day Against Nuclear Tests. He said that after meeting with the survivors of the atomic bomb attack in Nagasaki last month, he was reminded of the need to ensure that nuclear weapons are never used again. The Secretary General said we should all welcome the robust norm against nuclear testing that has developed since the end of the Cold War, with only one state having breached this norm. He noted that the nuclear tests conducted by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea have shown that no ad hoc measure can replace a global, legally binding ban on nuclear testing. He also stressed that every effort must be made to bring about immediate entry into force on the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, and he called on the remaining 8 states whose ratifications are required for it to enter into force. And the Secretary General's envoy for Yemen, Martin Griffiths, met with the government of Yemen delegation headed by Foreign Minister Khaled al-Yamani, and that took place this morning in Geneva. They discussed the expectations of these consultations and relevant issues to the peace process, in particularly confidence-building measures. The Special Envoy thanked the Yemeni government for their positive engagement with his efforts to relaunch the peace process. He acknowledged the efforts made by the government of Yemen and the coalition to facilitate the convening of these consultations. The Special Envoy reiterates the need to reach an inclusive political solution to the conflict in Yemen. Yemeni people who live under dire economic and humanitarian security conditions hope for a quick settlement of the issue. And he said he was hopeful to see the SANA delegation present to expedite the political process, and continues to make efforts to overcome obstacles to allow consultations to go forward. And turning to Security Council this morning, the Assistant Secretary General for Peacekeeping Operations, Bintou Keita, briefed on the situation in Haiti. She said the UN mission in Haiti was working with the government and the UN country team and external partners to prepare for transition to non-peacekeeping UN presence in the country. She added there had been some progress in most areas, albeit uneven, and that many required political rather than technical work to make a difference. And this afternoon, the Security Council will discuss the issue of chemical weapons in Syria. Council members will receive a briefing from the High Representative for Disarmament, Izumi Nakamitsu. And from South Sudan, our peacekeeping colleagues in that country report that a military court today handed out a lengthy sentence after finding 10 government soldiers guilty of committing violence against civilians at the Terrain Hotel in Juba in July of 2016. In a statement, the mission said the victims and survivors of this horrific attack in July of last year, 2 years ago, deserve justice and that it has been served today. The mission notes that the outcome of the trial also sends a powerful message to other would-be offenders that they will be prosecuted and punished for such violence. And the High Commissioner for Refugee, Filippo Grandi, joined the Emergency Relief Coordinator, Mark Lowcock, in Afghanistan, where today they wrapped up a 2-day visit, calling for urgent increase in support for the humanitarian response. Mr. Lowcock said that deepening violence and now drought is affecting hundreds of thousands of families across the country, adding that civilian casualties are at an all-time high, with 40,000 civilians having maimed or killed in the past year. Currently, the two are on a joint mission to Pakistan, where they will meet with the government officials, the UN and other humanitarian development partners, and people in need of assistance to discuss the response, how best to link the government's development framework. And just to flag that the Deputy Emergency Relief Coordinator, Ursula Mueller, arrived in Burundi today for a 3-day visit to raise visibility and increase donor support to humanitarian action in the country. And the FAO today released its food price index for August, saying the food price index had remained stable last month, with cereal prices rising while those vegetable oils and sugar fell. And I was asked yesterday about the timing of the elections in Libya. I can say the UN mission there continues to support Libyan national electoral authorities in preparation for the electoral processes, but that the timing of the elections in Libya is for the Libyan people to decide. And our honor roll is up to 129, with Chad, Jordan, and Syria having paid their regular budget dues in full. Tomorrow at 11:30, there will be a briefing here on the UN collaboration with Thomas and Friends to promote sustainable development goals for preschoolers. Speakers will include Richard Dickinson, President and CEO of Mattel, along with Maher Nasser, officer in charge of the Department of Public Information, and Totulupe Louis Tamoka of UN Women. Sir.
Thank you, Steph. Is the Secretary General at the moment doing any contacts with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un regarding his participation at the coming UNGA 73?
I'm not aware of Kim Jong-un being present during the General Assembly at this point, but obviously it is a decision of member states, and member states to inform us in due course as to who will represent them. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Stephane, on this, there are these reports about whether in Gaza, whether in Yemen, about the children, the state of children mental health. There are reports in all these. Mm-hmm. What is it that can be done comprehensively to what you call somehow save these children from the ravages of war? That as the United Nations ever considered that possibility?
Well, first and foremost, the aim is to stop the conflict and to find political solutions, as in Syria and as Yemen and all other places where there is conflict. As we, either from the Secretariat or the UN agencies, repeatedly underscore that children are the most vulnerable and are often the first victims of conflict, and not just physically, but clearly mentally.
Also, I want to find out from you whether, you were talking about Afghanistan earlier, has the United Nations been approached by Afghanistan or any other neighboring country about help, financial aid or help? Because they are, every day there is an attack going on in Afghanistan. Have they sought any sort of intervention from the United Nations to help them?
I know our colleagues at the mission in Kabul are in touch with national authorities. Yes, ma'am, did you have a question?
On the nuclear testing, did any of the speakers, the SG and so forth, connect this to the sort of controversial resolution of last year that bans the bomb or prohibition of nuclear weapons. Did that come up at all?
Well,
Should I ask Brendan?
I think the meeting was public, so you'd have to look at what the speaker said.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Secretary General has always stood for denuclearization. Thank you.
And on Burundi, can you repeat what you said?
I said Ursula Mueller, the Deputy Emergency Relief Coordinator, is in Burundi for a 3-day visit. Right. Thank you.